Sometimes the hardest thing isn't the decision we make, but finding the courage to share our truth with others. The journey to self-acceptance is often marked by moments of vulnerability and honesty with oneself and others. Opening up is a brave act that requires strength, not weakness. It's an invitation to be seen for who we truly are. We often keep the deepest parts of ourselves hidden, fearing that if others knew, they'd think less of us. But in truth, it's in those hidden places that our greatest power lies. In the end, the truth we carry within us is often more powerful than any external judgment. When we let go of the fear of judgment, we free ourselves to live authentically and deeply. There's a certain beauty in vulnerability. It's the space where true connection happens and we learn to love ourselves fully. No one's story is simple, but each story deserves to be told without shame or fear of judgment. At the heart of every personal struggle is a lesson waiting to be learned, and in sharing that lesson, we find our strength. It's easy to judge, but it takes courage to understand. So before you form an opinion, try walking a mile in someone else's shoes. In a world full of masks, be brave enough to show your true face. There's a raw power in being vulnerable enough to share your truth. It allows you to let go of the weight you've carried for so long. We all have our battles, and opening up about them is not a sign of weakness, but of great inner strength. Sometimes the most difficult stories to share are the ones that bring us the greatest sense of healing. The moments we feel most alone are often the moments where we are most in need of connection and understanding. True growth comes from embracing the parts of ourselves that we once kept hidden out of fear. When we share our truth with others, we create space for them to share theirs. And in that exchange, we find belonging. It's okay to not have it all figured out. Being real and honest about your journey is what makes you human. Sometimes, the most personal things are the hardest to express, but they're also the things that will set us free when we do. The weight of unspoken words can be unbearable, but when we find the courage to speak them, we release ourselves. The act of sharing our personal experiences is not about seeking approval, but about finding peace within ourselves. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is the strength that comes from embracing our imperfections. Your story, no matter how raw or painful, is a testament to your strength and resilience. When you reveal your inner world, you allow others to see the depth of your soul, and that's something truly beautiful. Being honest about your feelings isn't a burden on others. It's a gift you give to yourself, allowing you to heal. The most profound change happens when we stop hiding from our truth and begin living it openly. We are all a work in progress, and it's okay to let others see the unfinished parts of our story. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is open up, but it's also the thing that will set your heart free. By sharing our deepest thoughts, we not only heal ourselves, but also create space for others to do the same. There's a quiet strength in those who speak their truth, even when it's hard. The world can be quick to judge, but the truth is we are all doing our best with the hand we've been dealt. No one has the right to judge your journey. You are the only one who truly understands the path you've walked. We are all human, and that means we are all imperfect. It's in our imperfections that we find our most authentic selves. When you open up about your struggles, you inspire others to do the same, and in that space, healing begins. Sharing our truth requires bravery, but it also creates room for healing, growth, and understanding. We all carry wounds, some visible, some hidden, but in sharing them, we find compassion and connection. The path to healing begins with acknowledging our struggles and allowing others to witness our vulnerability. No one's story is simple, but every story is valuable and deserving of respect. The beauty of sharing our truth is that it allows us to stop pretending and start living in our authentic selves. When you expose your heart, you give others permission to do the same. It's easy to hide behind a mask, but a true freedom comes when we stop pretending to be something we're not. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love or understanding. You are worthy simply because you exist. The weight of silence can be heavy, but once we speak our truth, the burden is lifted and we are free. By revealing our deepest truths, we take away their power to hurt us, and we transform them into sources of strength. There's power in vulnerability because it's in the cracks where the light shines through. Every time you open up, you allow yourself to heal, and in that process, you help others heal too. It's in the moments of truth-telling that we find the deepest connections with others. Our scars tell stories of survival, strength, and growth. Don't be afraid to show them, for they are part of who you are. When we choose to share our truths, we give others permission to live their own truths as well. True courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to speak our truth despite it. We are all made of the same fragile, beautiful stuff. Don't be afraid to show the world who you truly are. Sometimes, sharing our stories is the most healing thing we can do for ourselves and others. Don't be afraid to expose your heart. The world needs to see it in all its vulnerability and strength. By embracing our deepest fears and sharing them, we take away their power to control us. The hardest thing isn't being vulnerable, it's accepting that others might not understand. But even in that, we find strength. When we let go of the need for perfection, we make space for our true selves to emerge. Opening up isn't about seeking validation. It's about accepting and loving yourself enough to be honest with the world. The act of revealing our personal truths can feel like a weight lifted, freeing us to move forward without fear. No matter how deeply you've hidden parts of yourself, you have the power to step into the light and be seen as you are. Being open and honest is a courageous act that allows us to connect on a deeper, more meaningful level. The more we share, the more we discover that we're not as alone as we once thought. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our inner strength and courage. The power of our stories lies in the honesty with which we tell them. Only then can true healing begin. The courage to speak our truth is not about seeking validation, but about honoring our own journey. Our most painful moments can become our greatest sources of strength when we choose to speak about them. Sometimes, all it takes is one honest conversation to change the course of your life. When you open up, you invite others into your world, creating space for shared experiences and deeper connections. There's something profoundly beautiful about being completely open and vulnerable with others. It creates an unspoken bond. It takes bravery to speak up, but even more bravery to listen without judgment when someone else does. Our struggles are not a reflection of our worth, but of our resilience and determination to keep going. The moments we are most afraid to speak are often the moments that bring us the most healing when we do. Opening up may feel like an act of risk, but in truth, it is one of the most freeing things we can do for ourselves. There is no healing without honesty, and no connection without vulnerability. Sometimes we think we're broken, but in reality, we're simply becoming more whole by embracing our truth. The stories we're most afraid to tell are often the ones that carry the most power to heal us and others. You don't need to be perfect to be loved or accepted. What matters most is your willingness to show up as you truly are. When we shed our masks and show the world our true selves, we create a space where others feel safe to do the same. It is in revealing our deepest fears that we transform them into sources of strength and empowerment. The path to self-love begins when we stop hiding who we really are and start accepting ourselves as we are. To share your truth is to give others permission to share theirs, and in that exchange, healing flows. Opening up about our wounds is not an invitation for judgment. It's an invitation for compassion and understanding. We carry so many hidden battles, but when we speak about them, we realize that we are not as alone as we once thought. Every time you speak your truth, you grow stronger in who you are and more connected to those who understand. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are the person you are in this very moment, and that person deserves to be heard. It's in sharing our stories with others that we begin to see the beauty in our struggles and the strength in our vulnerability. When we are brave enough to speak our truth, we give others the courage to do the same. There is no shame in sharing the pieces of yourself that you've kept hidden. In fact, it's a radical act of self-love. The act of being open is not about asking for sympathy, but about asking for understanding, acceptance, and connection. The more you allow yourself to be vulnerable, the more deeply you experience life, and the richer your connections become. The things you're most afraid to share are often the very things that will bring you closer to the people who truly matter.